For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh, and today we are getting a little toxic. This is the Toxic Avenger 2020. Iteration of Toxic Avenger, the cult classic from the 1980s, tells the story of a janitor named Winston who accidentally gets knocked into a vat of acids, mutating him and causing essentially a war to take down Big Pharma. If you have never seen the original Toxic Avenger, this is probably one of the best remakes that I've ever seen. Like, you don't actually have to come into this. I am a huge fan of the original Toxic Avenger. The sequels hit or miss for me, but this one is probably right up there with the original. This movie feels like such a fever dream, especially to come out in an era that is saturated with traditional, like, just feel like really cookie cutter movies is like probably the best way to describe it. This movie is just balls to the wall insanity that thrives on its fever dream premise and visuals to boot. There are two complaints that I will just go ahead and get rid of right now. I would probably say the first, maybe not even full act, but at least the first half of the first act definitely feels like it jumps all over the place. It establishes so many story beats so quickly that it kind of feels a little bit jarring at how much they lay down groundwork wise within the first 20 to 25 minutes. My other complaint for this is the way that this film handles some of its CGI. And I bring that up specifically because this movie essentially had 2 extra years to kind of smooth out some of these rougher edges as it was being shelved. And honestly, Screenbox and Cineverse coming to release this movie to a wider audience is fantastic. My big thing with it, though, is that they had bought this movie almost a year ago, and it just looks like they waited to release this movie instead of actually kind of smoothing out some of the rougher edges. It's not a whole lot of CGI shots. Like, the majority, I'd probably say 96%, if not 97%, maybe a little bit more of this movie is actually practical effects, which I really love. But there are a few digital shots in here that just do not feel complete. But with the practical effects, they look fantastic. They look incredible. I love the redesign of the Toxie character. I thought that he is really the centerpiece of this movie. Obviously, he's the titular character. But what they were able to kind of do with him and reinterpret him for a modern audience is nothing short of exceptional. And honestly, it's been a long time since we've kind of seen Troma have this high level of publicity, which, if you don't know about Troma, go check out the Occupy Cans film. It's absolutely incredible. And on Abyss Gazing, last week we released our Fantasia coverage episode, which I sat down and talked with Lloyd Kaufman, the founder and original director of Toxic Avenger, his daughter, Lily Hayes Kaufman. I sat down and talked with her about the movie, so go check out those things as well. But yeah, the redesign of Toxie looks just phenomenal. The attention to detail of where the veins are and the color, there's this discoloration as well. The idea to give him a magic 8-ball like eye was really cool. There's so many different things. I love how even the design of Toxie also has purpose that we see later in the film. And I think on that note, talking about purpose, I really love that Macon Blair just absolutely freaking crushed the script. Everything seems to be very intentional. Everything seems to be very focused and have a reason for a lot of things. And I gotta say, I truly loved the script here, aside from some of my pacing issues in the beginning. But this is a script that is very funny. It's very heartwarming, which surprised the mess out of me, and just very bizarre and random. This feels like a modern high-budget Troma film, which is what we want. I feel like intentional is the best word that I can also just use to describe talking about the pacing of this movie as well, because it feels very intentional. Now, aside from the first 15 to 25 minutes that I talked about previously, once this film kind of irons out a lot of its story beats and a lot of allows each of those elements to really grow and then crescendo together, it's complete chef's kiss. It's very well done. And again, that goes to the script from Macon Blair. I love how this movie really sticks to its unrated rating, and it's this collection of blood and guts and just gross out humor, and just really just went balls to the wall for this movie. And I think they absolutely crushed it and nailed it with it. Is this, again, this just feels like it embraces the body of everything that Troma has stood for the better part of 40 years. And this is probably one of the best films that they've ever released, or at least ever been a part of. I feel like I can't say enough good things about this movie, because even for as minor of some mistakes that they have, this movie is one of the best movies that we have gotten this year, and was well worth the 2-year wait that it took to get here from Fantastic Fest until now. So thank you, Cineverse and Screenbox, for this delightful, delightful movie that has no business being as good as it is. So with that, I'm ready to run this one through our Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give the Toxic Avenger 2025 a solid 4 out of 5. This is an incredible movie. This is easily one of the best remakes we have gotten in the modern era. This movie is funny, it's bloody, it's a lot of fun, like so much fun. But it's also oddly heartfelt, and the performances are great. The pacing has some minor issues to it, but overall, I just love how this movie feels like the big budget version of Troma we have been waiting for since the OG Toxic Avenger back in the 80s. If you guys have seen the Toxic Avenger, what did you guys think? Comment below, let me know. It is now playing everywhere from Cineverse and Screenbox and Legendary. But let's talk about mental health, shall we? If you guys are new to our content here at Victims and Villains, we create content like what you're watching right now, simply to talk about mental health through pop culture, and really also what art teaches us about mental health and the effects it has on our mental health. There is a moment shortly after Winston, Peter Dinklage's character, turns into Toxie. He meets a man in the woods, and this man basically kind of gives him the speech about how the worst moments in life are fleeting. They are passable, because at the end of the day, what turns out to be, what seems on the surface to be negative, could ultimately end up being one of the greatest moments in life, as we kind of see throughout Toxie's arc, so to say, throughout the course of this. Honestly, I feel like that part of the movie spoke to me the deepest and hit me the most profound way. There are certainly some times when I will do a mental health moment from a particular film. I try to think about it from the broadest perspective possible. And this is certainly one of those things, but this is one of those things that just really spoke to me and kind of where I'm at right now. This year has been one of the hardest for me mentally speaking, and every day, much like Superman said at the end of James Gunn's Superman, I get up. Despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other, and I try to do the best that I can. And I think this moment kind of also reminded me of that, because, you know, what is bad for your mental health one day could ultimately end up being your saving grace the next. It's funny how life works that way. I think it's really hard for us sometimes, especially in those moments of depression or sadness, or even the suicidal feelings that can be birthed out of life's hardest seasons. I think sometimes we focus and fixate, and we kind of can't get past the now to see what the could be is on the other side. And sometimes that is what keeps us holding on. We've talked about it in the past. sometimes the difference between being here today and being here tomorrow is just looking for one good thing that you're gonna have on the other side of tomorrow, whether that is going to be a concert, or whether that is going to be getting to see friends that you haven't seen in a while, or it's a new release of a movie like The Toxic Avenger. Hold on, because life gets better. Life is worth living for, and it's worth reaching for. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, please click the links in our show notes below to check out our mental health resource library. The Toxic Avenger 2025 is now playing everywhere from Cineverse, Screenbox, and Legendary. We have provided links in the show notes below where you guys can find tickets in your area, as well as links to some of the podcasts I talked about earlier on our podcast network, as well as more movie reviews like this, including Occupy Cans, as well as our social media and that follow button. So until next time, remember to keep it toxic, keep it spooky, keep it classy. Have a good night.